pod bay doors, please, Hal.
People are mad at me all over the country. $750,000 she done cost me. What I got left, I got some clothes. I got some jewelry. The rest I got tied up in investments. I ain't got nothing else.
Please instruct your client to remove his sunglasses. This is a courtroom.
Oh, you ain't got to instruct me to do nothing.
Your Honor, in order to expedite this matter, my client would like to make an oral motion amending her petition for divorce, revoking any financial claims.
I want you to be very sure about this. It means you're going to walk out of here with absolutely nothing.
Except my name. I'll give up all that other stuff, but only if I get to keep my name. I worked too hard for it, Your Honor.
The name is mine. The name got my daddy's blood on it. Now, she want to go. She can go wherever she want to go, but the name belongs to me.
Mr. Turner.
No. Look here now. Hey, get your hand off me, man. Now, look.
Mr. Turner.
She want to go. She can go. Sir? That's fine. She can go. But the name stays home. The name stays home.
As Mrs. Turner has decided to drop all claims, I hereby grant her a divorce on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. Mr. Turner will retain all publishing rights, royalties, all real property, clothing, jewelry, and all other assets. Mrs. Turner will retain the use of her stage name.
We did it, Mama. We did it. Oh. Anime Bella. Yeah, you ain't know that was a name. Hey, that's all right. I'm going to talk to her. Yeah, you keep the name, Anime. You keep the name, but remember, who gave it to you? I did. That's right. I gave it to you. What you gonna do? You got four boys. Yeah, carry your country ass back to Nutbush. No, it's all right, man. It's all right.
All right, Sonny. Okay, come on now. Let's go. All right, Junior, come on. We going.
The pod bay doors are open. Thank you very much for joining us once again. I am your host, Doug Heller, film critic and film historian for TalkMovieToMe.com. Here, as always, belting out the tunes. My co-host, Jerry Dean Roberts, film critic for Armchair Cinema, Armchair Oscars, and OverThinkingOscars.wordpress.com. How you doing, Jer?
Go straight to hell, Ike.
Well, I guess I deserve that. Hey!
The hat! Hey, wait a minute.
Today, we're talking about What's Love Got to Do with It, in memory of the regrettably now late, more than great Tina Turner, passed away at 83 years old.
Did that take you by surprise?
Yes and no.
You hit me up with that on the chat,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of those things I never saw that coming.
Yeah, no. The only reason I kind of thought she'd been not in great health was I watched the HBO documentary Tina.
Mm-hmm.
Just after I watched What's Love Got to Do with It for the first time. This is all this year.
I haven't seen the documentary.
The documentary is really great because it is her talking on screen with Kurt Loder and with her husband and with like archival stuff. And
did she ever mention this?
The movie? Oh yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah,
a lot of it. She said, "I thought that when the movie came out, I'd never have to talk about this again because it's right there."
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to talk about it again. That's why I okayed the movie.
Yeah. The movie is made so I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to discuss it
Exactly,
anymore.
because it was based on her book. So, and she was in
I, Tina.
Yeah. That she wrote with Kurt Loder. Is he still around?
I don't know.
I thought he died of cancer. Yeah. I thought he died of cancer, but I know that they've just recently scrapped MTV News.
Okay.
But now, there are a lot of reasons that I personally chose this. I had not seen this movie until this year, which is stunning because...
Had you seen it before?
No.
Really?
No. This was the...
Wow.
I've seen it twice now. But before maybe February or March, I had not seen this movie. Probably February.
I saw it during Oscar season.
Right.
in 1994, and it was it had a good run on HBO for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always stunned by it because number one, it's Touchstone, R.I.P. And Touchstone, if you don't know, is the division of Disney that they put together under the Michael Eisner regime to make more serious films that were outside the brand.
Right.
What surprises me about this film is how they allowed the brutality of the abuse to remain intact. They could have soft-soaped this.
Well, I think... I don't think they would have been able to get away with that because I think Tina would have pulled her support and she probably would have pulled the rights. So, and I don't think that this was a. I think that they wanted to show her story as faithfully as they could from her perspective.
Right.
Which I do admire about that.
I will say this, and I'm not knocking the film at all. You're not going to get it from us, but there's a laundry list of historical inaccuracies going on here.
Oh, of course.
Go to Wikipedia. There is a long list.
and but, you know, it's a movie.
Dramatic license.
Yeah, it's a movie. It's based on a true story. Is not, this is the real story. Otherwise, it would be a documentary.
Right.
So, I knew all about Tina Turner and her life with Ike and all of that long ago. When
I know more about Tina than I do about Ike.
I know a little bit about Ike. I've heard some of his stuff. He was a good blues man.
One of the founders of rock and roll.
Right. But it stuns me that I never got around to this movie because when I was...
It stuns me that you never got around to this movie.
Well, let me give you my story about this. Now, this song, What's Love Got to Do with It, was my first ever favorite song.
Yeah.
I was 3 years old when this came out. When the song came out, right? Came out in 1984.
Yeah.
I was 3 years old, and I could not get enough of this song. I had the tape of Private Dancer.
We all did.
I was 3 and madly in love with a 45-year-old Tina Turner.
Yeah.
So much so, that the few years later, when she was in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, I got a Subway-size poster of her in her costume from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome years before I even saw the movie.
Yeah.
I was in love with this woman.
We all were, yeah. It was hard not to be.
I was 3.
You were a child.
I was 3. Strutting up and down the hallway, singing "What's Love Got to Do with It," making my parents think I was probably gay.
No.
Because it was 1984.
Listen, it was just like Thriller a few years earlier.
Yeah.
Everybody had it.
Everybody. This was earth-shattering, and it started. I still have a healthy bit of her hits or her repertoire in my Apple playlist that I listen to. Like, it's the first song that I think I ever actually learned all the words to. And
it's one of those songs that it's what I call a grocery store song because you will hear it in any grocery store.
Yeah. Now, did you know that she was
kind of like Free Fallin'? You'll hear it in every grocery store.
That's true too.
And that stupid song from Mannequin.
Yeah. Every now and again, you'll hear like "Stop Dragging My Heart Around" or something, but
something like that.
But yeah, "Free Fallin'" or "What's Love Got to Do with It?"
Yeah.
There's a handful of others that you're like, oh, like "Horse with No Name." You almost always hear in a store.
That Katy Perry song, "Never Really Over."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I work at a grocery store. I know this. Elton John. I guess that's why they call it the blues.
Yeah,
any safe song for mass consumption.
Yeah. Now,
which is why they don't play Private Dancer.
Right. Which is a heartbreaking song.
It is. Oh, and We Don't Need Another Hero.
Oh, I love
That's
that
the other
song
one.
so much. That and Simply the Best. You'll hear Simply the Best a lot sometimes.
Oh yeah, and Simply the Best. Yeah.
Now, yeah, I
asked you when I was watching this, did Angela Bassett do her own singing?
No.
No, she did not. But
she is
Tina re-recorded her songs for the film.
Right. Right.
Her involvement was huge.
Huge. And the way that Bassett physically inhabits the nature and the movements and everything.
Speech patterns
and
stage presence.
All of it. Her physicality was in it all the way. Mm-hmm. And through that, even though she wasn't doing her own singing, you wouldn't know.
Well, I had to ask you.
Yeah.
I had to ask. The thing is, she's so much embodies Tina Turner. You never feel like you're watching Angela Bassett. You feel like you're watching the real thing.
No.
I remember Gene Siskel said he said, when we see the real Tina Turner at the end of this picture, he said, I didn't think it was necessary. Because I felt like I already spent a couple of hours with her.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you what, Ike Turner was probably the happiest man in the world when Lawrence Fishburne was cast as him, because he would wish to look like Larry Fishburne. Ike Turner was not an attractive man.
No, he was not.
Ike Turner.
Well, let me tell you this. This came about, this was originally given to Taylor Hackford. And
who would go on to then make Ray with
an
equally stunning inhabitation of
another great musical biography.
Absolutely.
The second director that came along was Mario Van Peebles.
Ooh.
Which this would have been way flashier.
I don't know how.
I don't know what the hell this would have looked like.
I don't know what it would have been, but it would have been a hell of a thing.
Brian Gibson was I think it was kind of one of those pay or play deals. Mm-hmm. He just it kind of landed in his lap. Brian Gibson is the director of one other film on this podcast. That's Poltergeist 2.
Oh no.
Yeah, really.
Oh no.
I'm sure the man would like to be known for this more than that.
Oh no.
Yeah. Were you
well, look. Oh, and by the way, Taylor Hackford is also Helen Mirren's husband.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes.
But I want to give you this little nugget of information. The role of Tina Turner. This is the list of actresses they went through to find their Tina: Halle Berry, Robin Givens, Pam Grier, Whitney Houston,
Ooh.
Janet Jackson, and Vanessa Williams.
Ooh. Can you imagine Janet Jackson in that? Oh.
Can you imagine Whitney Houston?
No. No, largely because I've seen her act in other movies, and
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Bodyguard, she had the singing chops. She had more than the singing chops to play the role, but she did not have the acting chops to play the role.
Out of that list, the only person I could actually see playing this role besides Angela Bassett would have been Pam Grier.
Yeah.
Just because, maybe I don't.
Pam
maybe,
Grier would have beat the hell out of this performance too.
Yeah.
But I
Lawrence
can't.
Fishburne. It should be said also. Lawrence Fishburne turned this role down 5 times.
Yeah.
And he said, because there wasn't anything in it. He said, it's pretty one-dimensional. So he only took the role when they went back in, and they changed some of his moments, some of his dialogue, to amp up the his presence on stage and his work as a musician. And so he wouldn't be such a stock movie of the week villain, which is how it was written to begin with.
Right. And
also how he got Tina Turner to marry him in the first place.
Right. And you've also got to think that the abusive black husband is so much a trope and a stereotype,
cliche,
that if he'd have played it as it was written, he would have just been a stereotype. Instead, he turns in what might be his best performance, and that's saying an awful lot for this man.
Yeah. And they don't soften it.
No.
They don't soften it at all. They make him a human being, but they remember also Ike was a musical genius, but at the same time, extremely self-destructive.
They humanize him without making him sympathetic.
Right.
Kind of like how Scorsese did with Jake LaMotta.
Yeah.
Humanizing,
but
not appealing.
One thing I noticed watching it this time, and again, this is not a knock, what a small production this is.
It is not a big budget movie.
It's not a big budget movie. It's not an epic. It's really a 2-character piece, because everybody else in the movie is kind of just in their orbit. All the other characters are just, all the other players in their lives are just kind of around. It's really just the two of them. It's the two of them. That's okay. I noticed it's okay. It's just it doesn't feel very populated, and because this is a survivor story.
Yes. And boy, is Tina Turner a survival story. Oh.
Yeah. There's an arc to this character, or there's an arc to this woman. There's a you feel when this is over, and it's not a long movie.
No, it
you
really
feel
isn't.
When it's over that you've watched an entire life.
Mm-hmm.
You've experienced an entire life. You feel that she's been through something. That scene at the end of the movie when she runs away from his hotel room.
Oh.
And she goes to that other hotel.
And she crosses,
you feel like
she crosses the freeway.
Yeah.
And she gets in there, she says what? She has a mobile card and like
my name is Tina Turner.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to open at the Academy tonight. My husband and I just had a fight. I have 63 cents and a mobile card. If you will give me a room, I swear I will pay you back.
So it'll be our honor, Miss Turner.
What I love about that is that's what the man says, and he doesn't flinch.
No, it would be our honor.
Real.
It would be our honor.
Yeah,
ma'am.
Yeah.
And
I love that so much that he just doesn't even blink.
Right. To the credit of the filmmakers, they actually made this way less harrowing than Turner herself described in the documentary.
Right.
What she was trying to cross was more than just a kind of a busy street.
Right.
What we saw her do was like maybe a 4-lane road. Right? What she had to cross was the freeway. It was like an 8-lane freeway that she had to frogger her way across in heels at night, beaten and bloodied, without getting hit by a car. She said it was the single scariest moment of her life.
Yeah.
And considering what she had been through all the way up until then, I can't believe how terrifying that must have been.
Yeah. And she goes up to that desk, and the man says, well, it'll be our honor, Miss Turner. I mean, and the woman has got a black eye, a busted lip. She's bleeding from her nose.
Yeah.
And she's soaking wet. And it's like, what would you say? I mean, I was so glad the man was just like, I would have personally paid for the room myself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I would have felt.
Yeah.
Anyone, not just Tina Turner.
My guess is she did not receive a bill in the mail.
Right.
Right.
I'm going to just say they probably comped the room.
Right.
I would have gotten the staff to, hey, everybody put in some money. We're going to pay for Tina's room.
Yeah.
But I was just surprised at how much of an arc this is. How she is. I love it when she's a little kid. They open in Nutbush, Tennessee.
I love the opening scene of this movie so much. I've actually rewatched the opening scene of this with her acting out in church. So many, I've rewatched it because it's just so amusing to me.
Because the choir director wants her to sing the songs
with everybody else
with reverence, the hymns with reverence, and she is just singing them, singing her heart out, and she's singing all of these runs.
She's rolling into a Baptist kind of a style when the choir director is trying to do something more traditional.
What I love is when she doesn't stop, the choir director puts her outside and closes the door, and you can still hear her singing.
Yeah. That was really funny. I do like. Now, I don't think Jennifer Lawrence was actually much older than Angela Bassett at the time. Well, even now, the one playing her mother. Jennifer Lewis plays her mother in this.
Jennifer Lewis, yeah.
And she also plays Lawrence Fishburne's ex-wife in Blackish, on the show Blackish.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Lawrence Fishburne and Jennifer Lewis's characters are married on Blackish. So that was
Angela Bassett was the reason. That was the reason that he took the role.
Right.
Because they had played the parents in Boys in the Hood,
mm-hmm.
and they wanted to work together again. Mm-hmm. I was surprised at how I love the atmosphere of when the club that they open with when he's with the Kings of Rhythm, mm-hmm. and you hear the arrangements that he's got going on, and you realize how and why he was so successful. And it's a sound that would eventually cross over. Mm-hmm. But here it's recreated beautifully. And you can see why she and and a lot of other women were enraptured by it. Mm-hmm. Caught up in the music. And when he comes to the house, you can see he has this snake-like charm.
Yeah.
Good-looking guy. He's got a fancy suit, fancy hat, little jewelry on, and he's got a very slick campaign. He's got a very slick line. And it's so, and you're just like, okay. Because he just slithers into her home, and it's, Yeah. And you're like, the mother was right.
Yeah. Here's something funny. I love Hollywood casting.
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne is supposed to be the older of the two.
Mm-hmm.
He was born in 1961. Angela Bassett was born in 1958.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman playing her mother, Jennifer Lewis, was born 6 months earlier, or a year earlier, January of 1957.
Suspension of disbelief.
I hate it when they do that.
But you still believe that she's 18 years old.
That's true.
I mean,
you do.
The way they have her made up
You
and the way
do.
she plays it, you still believe that she's 18 years old.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't. The makeup is done very, very well. That it does not betray the ages that they're trying to put forward.
And the first time that he has sex with her, which is played more boldly than I would have expected, is so symbolic of the seduction that he played on her early on. How he got her to go with him. And then putting her on stage. And the movie does make it clear that he helped to invent the stage persona that she would adopt and carry on basically for the rest of her life. But it's her energy that carries it.
And it's her voice.
He may have formed it, but she carried it and she created it.
Right.
So much so that the most triumphant thing, and I love this, and this is dramatic license too, later on when they're in divorce court, and she says, I'm going to give up all that other stuff. I'll sign away all the rights. Only if I get to keep my name. I've worked too hard for it. Is that he may have formed Tina Turner as a performer, but she created Tina Turner, and she worked her ass off and had to go through all this bullshit for it.
Tina Turner wouldn't have existed without Ike Turner. In that way, he was the name that got her to be the bigger name.
Right.
But everything about it was Tina.
Right.
Was Anime Bullock all the way around. He gave her a name and a stage, and that's what he contributed to her. Everything else she did was her.
Yeah.
And that
she worked.
The amazing voice and just the some of the most famous legs in the universe. It's like her, Rita Hayworth, and Betty Grable. And Cher. But
she had to, but there was a point at which she started to move away from him. And I think it was when they met Phil Spector. That's
absolutely when they started to drift, because Spector only wanted her.
Right.
Not only did Spector not want anything to do with Ike.
Many people didn't want anything to do with Ike.
He made it abundantly clear that Ike wasn't going to have anything to do with any of it.
Right, and he took it out on her.
Right, he did. And it's tragic that song did not become the hit that it should have.
Right.
Because it blew up overseas, but over here, because of racism and charting, and we don't want white kids to be influenced by the Negro music, and so they were shifted around. They were put on the wrong charts and stuff, and it just never gained any traction.
Right.
But she said she never felt better than when she could hear herself standing on top of that mountain of music. That all of that was under it for her. And that was
not him,
right.
her.
That was the moment that it was like, oh, I really don't need him.
Yeah.
Look at what I can do by myself.
If he had been, because I admire Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
Because I admire any actor who's not afraid to look like a jerk, who's not afraid to look. He's a monster. He portrays a monster in this, and rightfully so. And the fact that they don't make him softer, they do humanize him, but they don't make him so soft. They don't get away from the fact that he emotionally, sexually, and physically abused this woman for years, 16 years,
right,
that they were together. They don't pull that away. And another actor, a lesser actor, might have said, "Oh, I'm not comfortable with that." The fact that they allow that to be part of the story, a major part of the story.
A major part of the story, and Fishburne is one of the single most talented actors we have working.
He is.
Because he can be anything. He can be this menacing terror. And what?
Heroic.
Six years later, he's Morpheus.
Yeah.
And only what 10 or 15 years before this, he was the kid going down the river going up the river with after Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. It was his first film.
5 years before this was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this.
Hey, did you know that Dennis Hopper got Lawrence Fishburne hooked on heroin during Apocalypse Now when he was only 17 years when he was 17 years old?
Did not know that.
Yep. Thanks, Dennis.
Well, it should also be said this is the moment when Larry turns into Lawrence.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is when Larry becomes Lawrence. Yeah.
Yeah. And it the lack of attention this ultimately got during award season is tragic.
I can see it. This movie is bolstered by those two performances, because it sort of drags in other areas. It's too short. Its production design is not particularly. Its production design doesn't feel like a major motion picture. So what you focus on, those two performances are so volcanic that you forgive it all that other stuff.
Just like Ray.
Right.
But here's the thing. Like, okay, we've talked about this before. I think Tom Hanks deserves both of his Oscars. I just wish he'd have won them for different movies.
Well, he didn't win the Oscar for Philadelphia. The Cause won the Oscar for Philadelphia.
Right, and I think I've seen most of the movies in that actor category, and I think Fishburne gave the best performance.
I would disagree with that. I think he's great. He's great. But if I'm looking at my Oscar ballot, I'm giving it to Anthony Hopkins.
I probably would have given it to Liam Neeson, but Anthony.
It was Liam Neeson for Schindler's List. It was Lawrence Fishburne, Tom Hanks,
Anthony
Hopkins, and
Daniel Day-Lewis for In the Name
Daniel
of the Father.
Day-Lewis. Yeah.
But in the actress category,
this is tough. This is tough.
Listen,
because
Emma Thompson and Holly Hunter, I have not seen Shadowlands or I think 6 Degrees of Separation.
They're good. They're very good.
But
these two performances, Holly Hunter and Angela Bassett, this is kind of why the whole business of the Academy Awards is ridiculous to begin with. Because how do you choose between these two women, these two performances? They're both incredible.
Oh yeah.
I can't look at either one of them and say, okay, I'm going to take it away from you and give it to you. I can't.
Yeah, I know we can't, but I can absolutely tell you why it happened then.
Okay.
There had never been a black woman win lead actress, and they were going to be damned if they were going to vote her in. It's 1994.
There you go. But again, I can't look at either one of these and say that this is better than the other. Because it is. Both of them are incredible. And it's the best work that both of these actresses have ever done.
Yeah.
We will talk about the piano eventually, but the journey that Tina Turner is on in this movie is amazing, because that freeway that she crosses at the end of the movie is her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
This is her whole life. This was her entire relationship with Ike Turner. And I was surprised when I first saw the movie at just how scary the violence is.
It's horrifying.
When he beats her for the first time in that recording studio, it doesn't stop.
No.
No, he backhands her, and then he beats her for 5 minutes.
Yeah, takes her
and
back,
drags her into another
drags
room.
her back into the back room, and then of course there is the most brutal, most shocking sequence in the recording booth itself, when he's just like, "Nope, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. Nope, do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again." She's like,
"What
I'm
was
tired.
he wanting?" I think he kept saying, "You're not doing it right."
I don't think he knew. I don't think he knew.
Because he was hopped up. He was hopped up. He was.
And then he raped her.
He rapes her. That's the center of the film. That's the shatter point right there. Because everything that happens after that is just her saying, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. It is just genuinely one of the hardest sequences to watch in a movie.
I'm going to admit this. When I saw this film the other night, I skipped over that part. I was like, I know what happens. I understand, and it's an important part of the film. I can't sit here and watch this. It was just, I used that 10-second button, and I was like, okay, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's.
It was just too much.
Yeah.
And I'll say this for that scene. It's directed with restraint.
Yes.
There's no luxuriating this scene.
This is not. The violence in this movie is not. It's not praised. It's very much it's
not luxuriated.
Right. You're not in. You are. It's not made to be something that's like exciting or fun. It is. You're.
There's no slow-mo and all of that. There's no big angles.
It's not
and
flashy because the intensity of it is just that it is unbroken.
Yeah.
And that there's not a lot of editing and flashy techniques. You are watching something horrifying.
Yeah. Especially, and this is really, when they're in the backseat of that limousine,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes after her, and they're in this confined space.
And she starts fighting back.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had never done that before.
Yeah.
She kicked him in the balls, she scratches him, she bites him, punches him as hard as he's punching her. Like,
I have had
she was done.
enough.
She was done.
Right.
With him.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, her career was just getting started.
Yeah.
Because
I wish they played up a little more of the Buddhism, because the Buddhism was a major part of her life and a major part of her independence.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish they played that up a little more.
Yeah, me too.
It's in here, but it's not accentuated. I don't think it's accentuated enough.
Right. If they'd have had maybe an extra half hour, maybe they would have been able to do a little bit more with that and get a little bit more of the idea that she was coming to peace.
Mm-hmm. And what she was getting from this.
Right. And how she was going to do that for herself as a result of that, and getting the peace for herself, getting away from Ike. And not only getting away from Ike, but singing what she wanted to sing.
Right, singing her words. Because you notice, the songs we remember from Tina are the songs she recorded after she got away from Ike.
Mm-hmm.
Very few of what she and Ike
The only
recorded,
things you remember from her and Ike were the covers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Proud Mary and what was the other cover that they did? Damn it.
Now I gotta look at that.
Yeah, me too. But they were the ones that that you remember. And let me see here. She was not particularly a songwriter.
Yeah.
She, although she does have her name on a few songs like Nutbush City Limits.
Yeah.
But let me see here.
She didn't give up everything.
No.
But she gave up a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, when she there's a couple of anecdotes that I want to share. First, on about Proud Mary. John Fogerty was on VH1 Storytellers in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. And he's introducing this, and he said, I don't think nobody would know this song if it wasn't for Tina Turner. God bless Tina and that little gold dress. Go watch the television performance of Proud Mary and you'll understand the little gold dress he's talking about. You know exactly immediately. It's just
I did.
Boom.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, did you know that What's Love Got to Do with It was, first of all, she had nothing to do with writing it, and second, hers is actually technically a cover version because it was a second released version. There's a Europop version that is so flat you could probably convince people it was Earth.
Yeah, I gotta hear this.
Yes, you do. You do. Because she actually, although she doesn't have her name on the written, she did that that electric piano as the wind chimes, that ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-da.
Yeah.
She came up with that and added that kind of wood flute sort of sound going over top of it that is indicative of the song.
That opening chord.
That ba-do-do-do, ba-do-do-do.
Yeah.
That,
you know immediately what you're listening to.
Yeah. She was one of the single greatest performers that has ever lived.
Yeah.
And had one of the greatest singing
dynamic
voices. Oh, man. And just so... she was always authentic. She never... she never tried to hide herself. She was always very honest about what happened. She was always very honest with what... with how she felt about it.
When she spoke about it, you could hear that it was still stinging.
Yeah.
Because a thing like that does not go away.
No.
But she showed the strength of what a survivor can be. She's not hiding under it. She's not hiding in a shell. She took the high road.
Right.
Ike went to jail on drug charges. Drugs consumed his life.
Yeah.
And eventually killed him. Because he went to jail on drug charges, and when he got out, he was off of the drugs for a while, and then he got back on it, and the cocaine is what eventually killed him in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a very self-destructive man.
Yeah.
Who, whatever musical genius he was, and he was an accomplished musician, but he got the drugs got away from him. His own personality. He was self-destructive. He was jealous. Of her.
He enjoyed being the victim.
Yeah.
Like, people are with me, and then they get bigger than me, and then they leave me behind. But whatever. And then he hits her the first time. He's like, "Oh, I guess you're gonna leave me now." Like, yeah, she should.
And then she does leave him, and he threatens. He's so desperate, he threatens her with a gun.
Yeah.
The look on her face when he produces that gun is like, "Are you fucking serious?" Yeah. That look she has is like, really? Because she knows that this is desperation. He's desperate, and he pulls that gun. And she's just looking at him. Like, is that supposed to scare me?
Yeah.
And it's just you can feel the wind has gone out of him.
Oh yeah.
And
that scene when he's just pleading with her in the car.
Yeah.
That he needs three.
Damn it, broke my.
He needs $750,000 because he squandered everything, and it was like.
Well, just $750,000.
Yeah, and he's like, I got some clothes, but I got these great songs, and we can go into the recording. I can Tina again. It's like.
You don't understand. They're gonna put me in jail.
Yeah, he's like, but, and she's like, yeah, I don't need you.
Yeah.
You need me. I don't need you, and I'm not coming to your rescue.
Right.
And
she slams that door and she breaks the window, and I love it. Damn it, broke my window. Messed up a beautiful automobile.
The last thing I'll say, and this is the most this is the most horrifying part of all of this. It actually does answer one of your questions. Once she was interviewed, she said that she had wished the film had contained more truth. But the studio said that the studio felt that the public would not believe everything that had actually happened to her, because it was so much that they wouldn't be able to process the levels of abuse.
Yeah.
That it was so horrible that they weren't even sure. They would be the moments that everybody would go, "Oh, well, those were dramatic license. That stuff doesn't really happen in real life."
I appreciate the fact that the violence is not tamped down.
Yeah, me too.
I appreciate the fact that it's so brutally honest. But I also appreciate the moments when they allow Tina to be on stage, and they allow her. They really do show the brilliance. It's not just the stormy relationship she had with Ike. It's also what she brought to the stage. When she's singing "Proud Mary," there's fire in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one of those performances. It's just electrifying, and she manages to capture what Tina was on stage, and that's hard to do because it's a very physical performance. Because she was not a musician who just stood behind the microphone and sang. She didn't do anything unplugged. No, it was choreographed. It was physical. It was you couldn't sit still watching her on stage.
Right. No.
Because her whole being was on stage. And I think Angela Bassett captures that beautifully.
Absolutely. I regret that I never got to see her in concert.
Yeah.
I have a program from the Private Dancer tour, but I was too young to go. Obviously, I was 3.
Yeah.
And I never got the chance. She never came around close enough to where I was, and then she basically like retired in the late 90s, early 2000s, and like moved to Switzerland with her record producer husband. But to kind of circle back to if you asked if it took me by surprise, and I said yes and no. In the Tina documentary on HBO, at the end, it was like a big celebration for her, and she couldn't walk out on stage by herself.
I didn't know that.
She was being led out while she was going. Like, her husband was on one arm and somebody else was on her other arm, almost like propping her up as if she was like with like a Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And
like Roosevelt, yeah. Yeah.
And I was that startled me a little bit, because I didn't expect, and that documentary was only done, let me see here,
What did she die of?
It has not been disclosed.
Okay.
But she was 83, and let me see here.
But the picture in our minds of Tina Turner is muscular woman on stage giving these very athletic performances. So the reality that she would actually die was fairly shocking to me.
Right.
And you texted me that, and I was like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I immediately thought it may be some accident or something. But I was just shocked,
Yeah. That documentary, where is it? 2021.
Yeah.
So, not more than maybe 4 years ago, she was being led out onto the stage. So I was like, okay, something's going on.
Something's not right.
Yeah. So, still breaks my heart. Still always, always love her music, and just this film is just a powerhouse of a film, like all the way around.
Powerhouse of a performance. Those two
performances are, like you said, largely the movie, because the screenplay is solid enough that it gives them something to work with. And you can't really discount the director because he must have known what he was doing to a point. I mean, to get those performances out of people, you don't.
Yeah, I wish I so whenever I think about this film, I think about that scene where she goes into that hotel lobby, her face all bloodied up, and she says, "My name is Tina Turner. I'm supposed to open at the Academy tonight. My husband and I just had a fight. 63 cents in a mobile card." That's the scene that I remember. I was wishing that when they were giving out the Best Actress award, I was wishing that had been the clip that they used, but they didn't.
Oh, really?
The clip, yeah, that was not the one they used. The one they used was her singing "What's Love Got to Do with It?" Because that is such a moment. Mm-hmm. It's such a great moment because what she has been through to get to this moment. Mm-hmm. And crossing that freeway, and again, you say in heels at night, Froggers across that freeway
in L.A.
In L.A.
In L.A.
Let's not forget,
it is a Los Angeles freeway,
California.
A Los Angeles freeway at night.
At night.
In heels. And
one of her eyes is swollen shut.
Right.
Basically.
In what, 1976, 7?
Yeah. One thing they didn't point out, her first public performance, her first broadcast performance after getting away from Mike was the Paul Lynde Halloween special.
Well,
I highly recommend that to anybody. That is a great show. Then she went through. I know that she went.
I even love Disco Inferno when she sings it. Like,
that's one thing I was going to mention. Is I wish that there had been a little more of that, because when she got away from him, she had to rebuild
completely.
The only thing we see is when she's doing that small, is it a hotel lounge?
Yeah, or a resort, or in Las Vegas or something like that. And she
Roger Davies is there.
Yeah, and she does Disco Inferno, and then he's like, "Okay, let's see what we got." And she's like, "I want to sing rock and roll. I want to sell out stadiums. I want to be the first female rock and roll artist to sell out stadiums." And guess what? She was.
She did it.
She was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I say, I wish we could have, because it does. It's. I know that after the divorce and all of that, they're trying to get to an ending, but I wish they'd have shown a little more of that. But we do get it.
Yeah,
we do get it, and of course we get the real Tina at the end of the movie.
But that's about all I have. For this, what do we have coming up?
Next week, we're going to talk about my favorite musical biography. Another legend recently passed. Died last year, in fact. We're going to talk about the life story of Miss Loretta Lynn. This is Coal Miner's Daughter, directed by Michael Apted.
Yeah! I mean, the man was versatile, but really?
Not the first person you think of when you think of the biography of Loretta Lynn.
No. Considering he was a very, 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 very British man.
Yes. Very, very British.
Yes. The phenomenal director of the Up series, the massively innovative and unique, powerful and unique. Have you seen all of them?
I think I've gotten up to not 42, 56 up. I think was the last one I saw.
I think the only one I haven't seen is the last one. that he did just before he died. Like, I think I think he finished it and then he died. Like,
yeah, there was questions about whether or not somebody was going to take over the project.
Yeah.
When he passed away. But I've seen all of them through 56.
Yeah.
And it is remarkable. But Coal Miner's Daughter is, of course, Sissy Spacek won the Oscar for it. And again, like What's Love Got to Do with It, it's about a life.
Yeah.
It's about a journey. Even if you don't know one small thing about Loretta Lynn, it's a hell of an entertaining movie. I
have not seen it.
A Forgotten Performance by Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh.
Who I think is just as good as she is in the movie, but we're going to talk about that next week.
Yes, indeed. So, that's coming up there. We still working on August for everything.
Still hammering it out.
Yeah. You've got your picks. And I have to decide whether I'm going to play off of yours or completely go rogue and go in a completely different direction. Since yours are about substance abuse, I'm either going to go darker or a lot lighter. I haven't decided yet.
You still haven't decided on that. You still haven't decided on that Japanese film that'll take me 3 days to watch.
Oh no, we're going to do that one eventually, but. Largely because I would like to rewatch it, but
yeah, just because you want to watch it.
Yeah. Actually, you have no idea how often that becomes my pick.
Yeah,
I feel like watching this. I put it in. Gee, that was really good. I remember how great that was. Hey, let's do this.
Let's do something else.
Actually, then that's usually what happens. I move on, and then I'm like, I don't feel like talking about this anymore.
Well, to give you an inside look at the brain of Mr. Jerry Roberts, the picks that I have for anything for any given month change about 46 times before I land on anything.
Yeah, and most of the time I get at least 23 of those 46. These are my next ones. This is my next pick. This is my pick for the next month. This is my pick for the next month. It's like, dude, you've already picked 17 movies. What are we doing?
What's great is when I change my mind and like, I just watched a fucking movie you already picked. Okay,
now,
we'll
look,
go back to that.
The only time I have a genuine problem with that is Turkey Month, because when I sit through these things and then you go, no, I want to do this one, it's like, no, you motherfucker, we're doing this one because I already watched it.
Unless I pick a movie like Raw Deal.
Then, I mean, I watch... I think they have the director's cut of Commando on Amazon Plus. I'm like,
oh my god, there can't be more of that movie.
Apparently there can be. So, yeah, and usually I will either have the entire year mapped out by June of the next by June of the year that we're in. Like, I'll have the entire next year mapped out, or I will literally go month to month, wait for you to tell me what you're doing, and then play off it so that there's some kind of a theme, so that I don't have to do
some kind
much.
of continuity.
Yeah, so it really depends on where I'm at that month. But
all right,
we're going to wrap everything up here. You can find all of our back episodes at the podbaydoorspodcast.wordpress.com. You can listen to us on iTunes and YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe, notifications buttons on there so you know when we've got new stuff. You can follow us at Twitter until that implodes, and Patreon, both at the same handle, at pod_bay. We thank you so very much for joining us, and the Podbay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.
You must understand, the touch of your hand makes my pulse react. That it's only the thrill of boy boy meeting girl, opposites attract. It's physical, only logical. You must try to ignore that it means more than that. Oh, what's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? It may seem to you that I'm acting confused when you're close to me. If I tend to look dazed, I read it someplace. I've got cause to be. There's a name for it. There's a phrase that fits. But whatever the reason, you do it for